We're glad to have you here with us on The Retirement Solution with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital. And you can find us anytime at retirementsolutionshow.com. When it comes to your financial future, what you don't want to have to worry about is your finances because you're going to be retired. Let's help you put a plan in place so that you can worry less and play more. That's what retirement is supposed to be. We also have links posted in the show notes. Or again, find us anytime at retirementsolutionshow.com. And while you do work day in, day out to help folks retire, obviously, there are some folks that just will never retire. And that's also, this is something you see regularly. People that just, they want to know that the option's there. But there's actually, you have clients, big clients that, and I think probably the wealthier you are, the more you're just addicted to work. You have people in their 80s that are still working.
I mean, I laugh about it, because the people that are just unbelievably successful, they don't think it's work at all. It's
that's why they're so successful.
Yeah, whether they're 60 or 70 or 80 or 90, it's just another milestone they've passed. Yeah. I have a gentleman that has just had an unbelievable career. He's 84 years old. Mm-hmm. He has more commas in his bank account than I have ever thought that existed. I mean, you would think he's funding an entire government organization. It's unbelievable. And the thing of it is that he is nowhere near stopping. He basically said, "I'll stop once the breath doesn't come back in the lungs the last time." And he's very serious. And is he still with it? Yes. Is he unbelievably sharp? Absolutely. He'll say himself he's got a little bit slower, but it just gives him a little bit more time to make sure that what he does it right. And I just thought, man, what a great point. So if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. And I think there's a lot of people out there. And I think that's fabulous. It doesn't mean we don't have to plan. It doesn't mean we don't have to plan for
the unpredictable. Mm-hmm.
Sure, the unknown, the what if you can't anymore or whatever. But I think really what it comes down to is often, and this is almost catered a little bit to men in this one section. It's like a lot of guys, we do a good portion of the finances, and we don't. It's not that we exclude other people. They just aren't as interested in it, as sometimes we are. And so when we get to that point, because my father was this way, when you get to the point where you handle the majority of the finances, but you don't have the plan when you're not there, that's kind of a failure to plan. And unfortunately, that causes a lot of failure. So the point is that whether you ever want to keep earning an income or not is fine. Whether you keep wanting to work or not is fine. But you still have to have those other things because there's all kinds of tax structures that can be done that are beneficial, all kinds of estate planning that can be done if you're doing the plan. So it's not just about quitting to work when we're talking about retirement planning. Just think about your retirement as a sabbatical or maybe just a little bit of extra time off or just a little bit of an extra vacation time. But all those other plans for the retirement of the rest of your family members, maybe future family, that still kind of has to happen regardless, right?
Right. Think about your spouse. If you don't forget yourself for a minute and think about your spouse, think about your kids, think about your grandkids, think about your family and what you want for them and to happen in their future and in their lives. There is just so many things that can be done. And then when you're done with it, you just check it off. And then you go back to working yourself until 107 years old. We are here for it.
That's exactly it.
Somebody we could see do that is the legend that is one David Letterman. Oh. I didn't realize he's already 77.
77 years old.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
He looks great, and I think he looks
he's
great.
He's got a big beard. Like I don't know how I feel about the beard, but anyway.
I know, but it's
David Letterman.
But my dad's in his 80s, and you would never know it because he goes to the gym 3 times a week. Sure. He's on all these church boards, he's doing all these things, and I'm like, that's what keeps you young. I love both my parents are retirement age and still working, and I love it. And David Letterman's the same way, obviously, because now he's been off late night for years and years, but he moved right into Netflix with his show, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. And he was actually recently doing an interview with GQ claiming himself that retirement is a myth. Here's what he said.
You won't retire. The human mechanism will not allow you to retire. What do? Sit there and wait for Judge Judy to come on? As long as you are healthy, you still want to produce. Once I stopped doing the show, it took me a couple of years to figure out that, this is a completely different rhythm. And without the rhythm that you're accustomed to, largely unsatisfying. So you got to find something that's important to you.
Not that there's anything wrong with waiting for Judge Judy to come on.
But who, by the way, is the highest paid female on television for, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 years. Yeah, I think Oprah may have been number 1. And when Oprah went off the air, Judge Judy was number 1. Unbelievable. I think she made, and I could get this wrong, I think $40 to $50 million a year for the Judge Judy show.
It's still going, isn't it? I'm trying to do a quick Google right now.
I can't tell you the last time I was able to see daytime TV.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Fortunately for us, things like Netflix exist, so we can watch things like David Letterman's show. Yeah.
Unless it's Fox or CNBC, I don't get a whole bunch of daytime TV watching.
I know. Thinking about what he said, though, and retirement is a myth. Unfortunately, there are circumstances where the inevitable happens. People are forced out, or something, the job, there's layoffs, or something physically happens, or other things that are out of our control. Let's talk about what we need to be thinking about, because when the financial work that you do for retirement planning, it's so much more than finance, John.
Without question. And so let's dissect what Letterman has said, because I think in large part he's correct. So 77 years old, I think he's been off of nighttime primetime for like 15 years, 16 years. Yeah. I recently saw him, and I know that his show has been on Netflix. I just never really happened to catch it, even though I love David Letterman historically. But I watched him during COVID when he went to Dublin and interviewed U2, and it was just the Edge and Bono, and they did this thing. It was awesome. But you realize the connection that David Letterman had with them as artists. They were the first people he was the first person they allowed to come on the show when they were actually revolting against all of the politics going on in Ireland. And it was amazing. So they had you could feel it was just really awesome.
Chemistry,
But the thing about Letterman is I think that he's always cared a lot for what he did. And so I think that there's some truth to what he's saying. Retirement's a myth. It doesn't exist, because I think the old concept of retirement is you punch the time clock the last time at the office, you get a golden watch, you go to your Barca lounger, and then you're there for a couple of years and then you're gone. That is not, however, the way that we've evolved in the United States and as humans. So now we may retire, or quote unquote, from the big job, the one that's the stressful 65, 70 hours a week job. We may stop doing that in our late 60s or maybe even early 70s, but we're typically doing something that keeps us motivated, keeps us going on for long periods of time, whether you're more active with your church, or you're doing more civic things, or you're doing more volunteerism, or frankly, you just get a green thumb and love gardening around the house, whatever it is. I think that there's something about this. We're retiring, maybe, I'm not going to say it, but kind of am. Maybe we're retiring too early based on our life expectation, based on us lasting into our mid to late 80s.
The standard of we're just supposed to, when we should be thinking about it differently. There's so many about retirement we should be thinking about differently, though.
Right. And so when you think about it, Social Security was supposed to start at age 65. Is basically you live too old insurance policy is basically what it was. The average age of death was 63.
Right.
When they instituted Social Security. So it's like, most people are kicked off at 63. So we'll allow this to happen as basically insurance if you're too old at 65. Think about that, though, guys. That means that when you were retiring from that job, most people, by the way, didn't. Back during the Great Depression and before that period of time, and even in the early up to the 50s, people didn't retire. They worked until they couldn't, or they got ill or infirm, and they relied on their family members to help pick them up along the way. That's how it typically worked. Now we're at a place where, frankly, we're an unbelievably wealthy nation. Even if we don't feel like in our houses it's that way every day, as a nation, we're very wealthy, and we're pretty healthy overall. Do we think, could we do a little bit better? Sure. But we're lasting into our mid-80s. So if you retire in our 60s, that's 20 years of something that we're going to find that we need to do. I've said it on the show dozens of times over the years. It's not about what we retire from. It's about what we retire to. David Letterman also said just a minute ago that you don't feel like it's a very successful retirement if you don't have something to motivate you, something to get you up in the morning, basically. It was basically unfulfilling. And I think that's probably the best word. What is going to fulfill your retirement? I still have young kids, but I've lived vicariously through every one of my clients who's told me, John, do what you need to do. Don't ever travel too much to where you're not hanging out, seeing those ball games, hanging out with those kids. Believe me, doesn't matter how successful you think you're going to be, your success will be diminished if you don't give them that time. So I do. And so I learned that from all of my clients who maybe had that experience, or maybe saw people that didn't do it right, or they look a certain way. So I've always been able to do that, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. But what are those things next? I don't think that anyone wants their gravestone to say, Ted showed up every morning at exactly 7 a.m. What I hope they would say is, Ted greatest worker in our company history. Why? You're typically the greatest worker if you're happy about it, if you love what you do, right? But I think a lot more people don't care about what their workplace puts on their gravestone. It's those people around them, right?
Right.
What would your spouse say about you? What would your kids say about you? What would your grandkids say? And let's say that, it's a new year. It's a new opportunity. What if you don't like what they would have said? The question is, what would you want it to say? The greatest thing about retirement, let's change that paradigm of thinking. Let's quit retirement as getting in a Barca-lounger, quit working and just being shuffled out, of society. Let's think about it differently. What do we want to reinvent ourselves to become? What would we like it to be? We can do that. Do you want to be an advocate for a different political type situation? Do you want to, because by the way, lobbyists come in every shape, form, facet, age, and everything, and there are some unbelievably intelligent people out there that I meet all the time who speak about their mind, about what they feel strongly about. They should probably be a lobbyist or consider that, or working with one of those organizations, whether it's grassroots or whether it's at the highest levels. We can all do those things. What motivates you? For me, I find I'm gravitating more and more to family. Not just my immediate, but those that frankly I've lost contact with over a lot of the years. And here I am, basically 50 years old, and I'm saying, hey, I'm already learning this. I'm already discovering these things. Yeah. What are things that we can do deeper that are more meaningful for us? Because retirement, I agree. So when we talk about retirement on the show, don't let it turn you off. Let it turn you on to the next thing that can be. And anyone that's ever told you can't, they can kiss my tush, they can kiss your tush. The point is that you can do. This is America. This is the greatest country that's existed in the modern era. And does it have some issues? Of course it does. But we have to make it good. We have to make it good individually. And we do that by living the life we can. We have that opportunity, so we need to go do that. So whether it's you want to do more volunteer work, you want to travel the world, you want to take your bride on places because you've saved enough money and you worked your butt off your entire life and you have never seen the world, well, guess what, guys? I'm giving you permission. Now maybe you can. You just need to have a sound financial plan on how you can make that happen to make the right decisions. But it all starts with a plan. So whether it's my team that helps you with this or some other fiduciary-based advisor that focuses specifically on life needs and what you want to accomplish, make sure you reach out. If it's with us, we'd be so proud to give you our information on what we can to help you out. But this 2025, I think, could be an absolute banner year for the most of us. But it starts with one simple step. The question is, are you going to make that step today?
It's very easy to do it. Just find us at retirementsolutionshow.com and let's get to work helping you figure out all that is different for you in retirement in a good way and all the ways that you can benefit from what you've worked so hard to earn and save by putting it into a plan customized to you and your goals. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there to get to John and his team at J. Hagan Capital, or again, find us anytime. retirementsolutionshow.com.